Hi guys, welcome to another online class. And this class is going to be about light sources, and we are going to take a light from around the house. You are going to want the shapes that we were using last week that we made out of paper. You don't have to use every single shape. You're also going to want your pastels, your directions, your warm-up worksheet, your pencil, and your Q-tips. Also your multimedia sheet of paper. That's going to be used for our final project. So first things first, we are going to set up our light source. Once you've hooked up the light of your choice, it can be a lamp or a work lamp, whatever is safe for you to use and easy to put on the table. I have a work lamp that I really liked. It was very, very bright, and I could clamp it onto a chair. I also had a lamp from around the house, and I could just move that forward or back. I could even take off the shade to allow more light. If you can, try to make the room really dark and block out other sources of light. I have a window that I blocked, and I turned off the kitchen lights, and I only want one light source. So try to limit other light so that you don't have two shadows, just one. So I experimented. I moved the lamp around, I put it on one side versus the other side, and I just paid attention to the shadows and where they moved. When I would go close up, the shadows were short. When I moved far away, the shadows are long. Eventually, I chose to put the lamp in front of the shapes because I like how the shadows go in the back. And I chose the left side because I wanted the shadows to move from left to right. Now I'm setting up a composition. So I'm moving the shapes around, choosing what balances them all out, because there's 4 of them, and I wanted the shadows to be obvious so that I could draw them. When you've finished setting up your composition, I want you to take out your warm-up worksheet. And if you've never done oil pastels before, this is especially for you because we're going to experiment with them a little bit. You're going to take a color, any color, probably a lighter color that mixes well with white or black so that you can see what's happening. Don't use white or black. I chose purple, and I'm going to follow what it says in the box. This box said add a color and then add white. So I put down purple, and now I'm going over it with the white pastel. What they're showing you is if you put a color first and then you put white on top, the white acts like a blender. For letter C, they want you to mix gray with the color. I actually didn't have gray, but I did have white and black. So first thing I did was color it purple, and then I did a layer of white on top and a tiny bit of black. And then I went over it again with a little bit of white to try to create gray, just to see what that mixture looks like. I also tried using the Q-tip to mix them together a little bit, and it seems to work okay, but I prefer to use white to blend the colors together. For letter D, you're going to put black first and then the color on top, so I really went light with the black. If it's very, very dark, I feel like the color won't show up. So I just put a little bit of black, and then I put purple on top, and it almost looks like black. Even with that little bit that I put, the black mixes with the color a lot. I don't know if you noticed, but I've been scrubbing the pastel into the newspaper to clean off my pastel because sometimes the black or the white will get onto the color, and I needed to clean up. So to clean it, I just wipe it on the newspaper. For number 2, you're putting color over white, which means you start with the white and then you put color on top. And then part B of number 2 is putting white over the color. So you're going to put the color first and then white on top. They want you to see the difference in the order of things. So if I put white first and color on top, it's not very blended. But if I put color first and then white, it's very nice and smooth and blended. Number 3, you're using color over black, which we did on D in the first one. So you're doing a little bit of black and then the color on top. And then the other one is black over a color. So I filled it with purple and then I put black on top of it. This one really didn't seem to make much difference. The black is very, very powerful. Maybe it's different for the color that you used. For number 4, you're going to take 2 different colors and create a gradient between the two. So you get to choose whatever colors you want to use. When I started, I just filled it in really, really good. Not quite halfway, 1/3 of the way. And then when I got to the middle, I put a little bit at a time until they blended really nice. Sometimes I layered over it. I went more pink on the right, more green on the left. I wanted it to be really nice and blended. Number 5 is exactly the same. Number 6 is a little different. You're going to pick a color and do a gradient from the color with white to the pure color to the color with black. So I just went 2/3 of the way with the pure color. I mixed in white at the beginning, and then I made the gradient from green into the black. And I mixed a little bit at a time, left to right. And that looks like a really good gradient. You're going to be using gradients later, so I would really work on this one. Okay, so now we are going to do a quick sketch of our composition of all of our shapes. So when you do this, you're going to probably want to remember things we did in lesson 1 with our shapes on how to draw them. My shapes are in a different angle for this one, so I'm drawing it a little bit differently. If you want to try to draw them the same as lesson 1, all you have to do is position them the way that we drew them last week, if that helps you out. Alright, so I drew my cube, and now I'm going to do some light shading of my shadow shapes, just to tell me where the shadows are, as well as the shadows on the different sides of the cube. Some parts have darker values than others, so I'm looking for the darkest side and I'm mostly shading that. When I worked on my rectangle here, I did one big square followed by a small square that starts off of its corner, and then I attached those lines together to make it into a cube. And always remember to draw the shadow. So I'm looking at the shadow shape and I'm filling it in. This is just a quick sketch, so I don't really want to work too hard on this one. I'm just trying to get used to these shapes and practice before I do the real deal. Okay, so that is the rectangle, and now I'm going to do my cone. I start with an oval on the bottom. I put a dot at the top in the center, and then I connect it from the sides up to the top. I also need to draw the shadow and fill it in. And I should erase the lines that I don't see. So if you remember doing the X-ray vision where we are seeing through the shape, it's the same thing. Now I'm darkening the right side of the cone, and it's going to create a gradient going to the left. So it should get lighter and lighter as it goes to the middle and then stop in the middle because the light is hitting the left side of the shape. Now working on my pyramid. From the angle where I'm sitting, it's not exactly the same as the picture. I only see one side from where I was sitting when I drew this. In the image, there's actually 2 sides that you can see, but I just hinted at it. So I drew the shadow, I filled it in, and I darkened that right side a little bit. And I'm all done. That's it. My composition is ready to go. So you guys need to grab your mixed media sheet of paper. I have a mixed media sketchbook, and I am going to do my real drawing. I'm going to put in a little more effort here to draw out all of my shapes the way that I see it in front of me from my still life. So I'm doing my rectangle shape, my pyramid shape, the cone, and the cube, and the shadows. I really want to draw out the shadows very well to get ready to color it all with pastels. So we're not shading right now. We're going to shade with all of our pastels and blend and make a really cool picture. Alright, so at this point I'm erasing the lines that I don't see. And I actually went ahead and made a couple of changes because I wanted to change my composition last minute. I decided to move my cube a little bit to the left, and I also moved my cone a little bit to the back. It was just a personal choice. You guys can always make changes and change your mind. You're the artist. You can do what you want to do. Okay, now on to my favorite part. We are going to fill in every single shape with our pastels. So I chose a light lime green color for my cone, and I'm doing a gradient. So I went halfway with the pure color. I started a really light black where the shadow is on my cone, and I just started to fill it in and blend with the green. The green is my blender right now with the black, and I put it on top of the black. I then used white for my highlight on the leftmost side of my cone because that's where the light is hitting the brightest. Now when we talk about the cube and the rectangle and the pyramid, those do not have gradients as much as they have different values for each side. You guys have to look at your shapes to figure out which side is going to be the darkest and the lightest and so forth. I took a break from working on the cone to put in a background to help my shapes stand out. You guys can save this till the end, but the reason why I did it now is because I wanted to pick out my shadow color because I wasn't going to use black as my shadow color. I wanted to make it colorful. Since we're mixing all these different colors together, I feel like black shadows are not challenging enough. So what I decided was I wanted a pink background with red shadows. If you guys want to make a cool background with like blue, you could do purple shadows because they're darker. If you did a yellow background, you could do orange shadows. It's really up to you. I just decided that this would look the coolest. So if you guys want to have fun during this part, making it all kinds of different colors for your background, that's fine with me. Another thing you can do with your background is blend it. I use white to blend mine. If you have baby oil at home, you can dip a little bit with a Q-tip and that blends it even more. I didn't have any baby oil to use, but if you do use it, remember, use just a little. So moving on, I chose yellow for my rectangle shape and filled in the rest of my shadows with red. For the darkest side of the rectangle, I laid in a really little bit of black, just a tiny little bit, really lightly, and then blended it with the yellow to get a really nice dark even color. I added a little bit of black to one of the sides that looked a little darker, and then I blended that as well with more yellow on top. Another thing that you can do is outline the dark shadow shapes with a little bit of black or the darkest edges of your shapes, and that really makes them pop. That's optional. I just recommend not outlining the parts that have highlights, the brightest parts. So if you look at my cone and my rectangle, on those brightest spots, there is no black, only highlights. I filled in my pyramid with some orange. Like I said, I couldn't see that right side of my pyramid, so I only had one side from my perspective where I was sitting. But you know, you guys just fill in everything that you see. For my cube, I actually put white down first and then put some blue and then blended it again with more white and a Q-tip. Two sides of my cube are very light in the picture, and then one side is pretty dark. So the dark side of my cube I outlined with a little black, and I lightly filled it in with a little bit black and then blended it with blue on top. And that was it. So when you guys finish all your shapes, put your supplies, write your name on the back first, and then clean up all of your supplies. All of your pastels need to go back into the box that they came in. Your Q-tips that you used, you can throw them away. Any of those little bits of pastel that got onto the surface, onto your table, make sure you clean those up as well, okay? Great job, and I can't wait to see what you guys made.